à-bas-le-ciel.
That's what I got a problem with. Like I said, when people advocate things like that, and that's not gangster to me. Like I cook and I eat and sit down, and my children, we sit and read, and I do homework with my kids. That's gangster to me. That's being gangster. Yeah, I'm not a daddy. I'm a father. My children don't know Beanie Siegel.
À-bas-le-ciel.
One of the things that was really positive for you was that you did know a circle of people connected to PigSave and so on, yeah?
Yeah. I think a few months into my channel, maybe 6, 7 months, I went to some vegan convention. Then I met Nita Crines from Toronto Pig Save. Then I got involved in that group, and then a lot of the people in the Pig Save movement are also involved in Direct Action Everywhere. So I am involved with those two groups. And then there's like Cow Save, Chicken Save. We go to all the different slaughterhouses.
Right. But now you're living in Belgium long term. Are you going to try to make similar?
No, actually.
Okay.
Moving back to Toronto in October.
Okay, sorry, I had no idea.
Didn't exactly work out here. I was trying to get married and stay here for a year, but yeah, just bureaucratic issues. Me and Jasmine are going to move back to Toronto.
Yeah, well, technically, I'm still legally married to a citizen of France because the divorce paperwork has taken so many years. So I've been through some similar hurdles. Anyway, okay, that's interesting. It's good for me because I'm going back to Canada too. And I mean, for me, yeah, no, but for me, the disappointment was because I was thinking, oh, gee, when I go back to Canada, I could hit Toronto, I could visit you, visit the Light Twins, visit Aaron Janis, visit a few different vegans next time I go through Ontario. And long term, as I've said a million times on my channel, you have to cooperate with people of the same citizenship as you. There's just not much politically I can do with someone who's even in California, even though California is so close to Victoria. When you're on the west coast of Canada, I'm really positive for other people if they've found a circle of colleagues or anything else, engage in any kind of activism where you can cooperate and collaborate. I think that I think that's something that most of us on the internet are looking for and don't have. So.
Yeah, and PigSave is a really great group. I think their protests are the most effective. I think there have been a few Direct Action Everywheres that I really like. There have been some that I really didn't like, but PigSave, I think every time I've gone out, it felt like it was a good experience, like productive.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder about something like PigSave because a lot of the people I talk to about veganism are very highly educated people. They're my own university professors. They're people with PhDs or what have you. So it's for them, it's not the concept of veganism that's hard to get. I think in a sense it's the stakes of the game we're playing. Like I do really wonder because one of my professors, he wasn't 100% honest with me, but he became semi-vegan because of my influence. And as you got the impression already, I don't. When people agree with me in principle, for me, that's it. I'm not going to ride them you're still wearing that belt. You're still wearing that leather belt you owned from 5 years ago. Because for me, the question of principle is really the only question you can resolve face to face. Unless it's actually my girlfriend. Like if I'm dating someone, okay, yeah, then I'm going to say, look, the belt has got to go. But, it's my professor or something. But I did really wonder, if we had something like Pig Save, just the visceral experience of seeing it, hearing it, smelling it, whatever. I even really liked. I mean, for some reason, some vegans are against using slaughterhouse footage. I love that shot you had of the garbage container. Yeah, the bones going into the garbage.
Yeah, those are from dairy cows, actually. The reason their heads are marked in blue is because they've been alive longer than meat cows, so they have a much higher risk of infectious disease and mad cow. So their heads and everything and guts are just transported onto some weird rendering truck, and it's made either into food for human consumption or pet food.
Anyway, yeah, I did wonder though because obviously some people approach these things in a more intellectual way, some people approach them in a more emotional way. But if you talk about professors, some of the professors I've known, for years and years. So you're a professor of Buddhist philosophy. The idea of not eating animals, it's not a new concept for you. You must be pretty well aware of this, and yet you still eat meat every day. So, I do wonder, an experience like Pig Save, I wonder if for some people it makes it all real. It gives it that gives it that human scale.
It does actually do that. I've met a few people who've gone there who were either meat eaters or vegetarians, and then they just switched to complete vegan after seeing it. And I've talked to a few people, both in the comment section and actually in real life, where they said they watched my pig save videos and that turned them vegan. So, I think that experience is important. There's a huge disconnection between what we're eating and what actually goes on in making the food. Like, you can see so many people who will argue against veganism, who eat meat every day and think it's okay, and then they'll just rag on hunters, calling them sick, disgusting, evil. So, yeah, it needs to be brought to people, seeing that, like, what actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's different stories, different folks. My channel, I never imagined it would convert anyone to veganism, but I get email from people saying they became vegan because of my channel and only because of my channel. And they must be very interesting people. Like, I can't, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, I can't imagine being you. But I was talking to a guy just a couple days ago, Jay Costley. He's now got his own YouTube channel. He mostly talks about zoos in connection to veganism, wildlife like wolves and stuff like that. He became vegan entirely because of your channel. And now, like, the thing is, too, with both examples, whether it's someone who says that about my channel or your channel, like, in reality, there's a whole lifetime of experience and suffering, and like, there's so much more to it that's not being said there. But because for Jay, he used to work in these wildlife projects, so he worked with animals. He used to work in zoos, and he used to actually slaughter animals in the zoo to become food for the other animals within the zoo. It's kind of one of the obvious secrets in a zoo. It's like, what do you do? What do you do when the giraffe dies? You chop it up and feed it to the lions, kind of thing, right? So yeah, he'd been through a lot of situations, but then for whatever reason, whether it's maybe he just never really thought about veganism or what have you, it was your channel that resulted in him becoming vegan. So anyway, no, I don't myself take too much credit for it, because there's always got to be a whole story of so many years and so many misgivings before that. But yeah, it's definitely true that whether it's for some people a purely emotional and empathic sort of reaction, or there's something else going on, you don't know. Anyway, I thought I was going to ask you. I thought you were going to be just liberated from Toronto, but now it turns out that no, you're thinking about being in Toronto more long term. So I mean, how do you feel about Toronto? For me, I've steered clear of it for more than 10 years. I could figure out if it's 15 years now or what. But what does Toronto mean to you, and like, how do you see your future in the city? Whether it's personally or politically or culturally.
I like Toronto. The rent is a little bit higher than a lot of other places, but you can get food pretty cheap. There's a lot going on. There's like the Pig Save, DXE. A lot of my friends are there. There's a lot of vegan places to eat. Really great vegan town. Yeah, it's basically it though. It's convenient. TTC is pretty easy to get around places, so it's a pretty decent city. In Scarborough, I've had more issues with that, especially like police and a few racists around my neighborhood. Like some dude almost ran me over and he actually got out of his car, started shouting at me, calling me a nigger. There've been a few people who've just acted weird around me. Like when I was walking down the sidewalk, the one dude just went way far away from me onto the grass to avoid me. There's weird stuff like that, and one time I was just taking photos around, a park, and then some cops like said, "Oh, are you taking photos to like of buildings to rob them later?" Like, there's weird stuff like that. Yeah, but downtown Toronto has been pretty fine. Actually, I've had a few cops who watch my YouTube channel, and mentioned, "Oh, hey, what's up, Vegan Gains?" So yeah, downtown Toronto's a lot more friendly than my neighborhood in Scarborough, where I've been living.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. The cops downtown, because they tend to be familiar with really serious crime, they're less likely to freak out over trivial crimes or perceived trivial crimes. That is my experience with cops downtown. But it is true also. Like, so when I was a kid, this is now over, but I was young enough to know the legend of Cherry Beach, when downtown Toronto cops. So you may have heard about that in like comedy shows, like The Kids in the Hall. There are these jokes because obviously TV stays in reruns forever. But Cherry Beach was this beach. It still exists in Toronto, and it was infamous for cops putting you in the back of the car, handcuffing you, taking you there, and beating you, and then leaving you semi-passed out or whatever. They'd then unhandcuff you and leave you on the beach. So in terms of like routine police brutality, I'm of that generation where that stuff was still going on. And yeah, I mean, my impression is Toronto has gotten better in exactly those ways. I think like that specific example, I don't think cops in Toronto do that anymore. And just towards the end of my time in Toronto, we had the big race profiling scandal break. And that was not downtown. That was really the highways connecting out to Scarborough. It was, the connections to where, this kind of smoking gun evidence came that like 90% of the people they were stopping were black. That's not the actual statistic, obviously, but it was this shockingly high percentage of these people. And, then all the anecdotal evidence came out and complaints to back that up and so on. But, like the beautiful thing about being in a democracy with freedom of speech, and including like those comedy videos that were made. So Kids in the Hall, other comedy TV shows, they made fun of Cherry Beach. It's a place where cops used to be. And I knew people got beaten up on those beaches by cops. Well, you have freedom of speech. People have the right to laugh about it. People have the right to complain about it in the newspapers, and things actually change, So it's, also it's got to be a generational change too. Probably most of the cops you're talking to are now my age. So they're probably guys who, just represent a totally different generation in terms of all those attitudes. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had some bullshit cop issues where they're accusing me of like going to kill a bunch of people and shit, and most of that's being resolved right now, but the way they were dealing with it was really weird. Like they literally dragged me out of my house at 3 a.m. and they broke a few of my rights. They got a warrant illegally, a lot of bull crap, but right now it's pretty much resolved. So yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah. Anyway, it's I don't think I will ever become a police officer, but at a few different times in my life I considered that as an option. And now, so like the surreal thing is we're assuming when I leave China, I'm actually going to speak Chinese pretty well because I'm staying here all the way till December, studying continuously. So that's long enough. And it's like, well, what jobs can you do in Canada when you speak Chinese? Actually, joining the Toronto Police Force is one of the very few jobs that would be open to me. So it's,
cool.
It's a funny question. Like I one of my ex-girlfriends had a long time, like we might as well have been married. It was like really serious long-term relationship. But I remember she always said to me, she said, like, look, like, you should really become a cop. Because of all the people she knew, she said, you're the one guy I know where, like, if people try to punch you in the face, you don't get angry. Like, like, I know it sounds stupid, but, like, she'd seen me handle situations where, like, I remained calm and in control, where there was this kind of thing. She said, if you don't do that job, someone else is. You're the only guy, and, like, you're not racist. You actually care about people.
I think you'd be a
It's like, what is this? This brings the next post story.
Anybody or beating anybody up for no reason, so...
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, too, it'll change you. So, I mean, it would be, for me, it would mostly be curiosity, but I'd wonder, like, a job like that, if you do it for just 2 years, are you a really different person after 2 years? And for me, like, I'm totally willing to take that risk, but after 2 years, after 5 years, I'm not afraid of that, but I think probably you would change a lot. And maybe by the end of that time, whether it's just, impatience that you feel you've seen this situation before, I think you probably could become a lot of the things you said you would never do. But anyway, I think you may or may not already know, but a couple months ago I signed up to join the military. So in terms of my both past and present job options, it's a bit surreal. Yeah, but it's not going to be YouTube. I'm not going to be the next Vegan Gaines. It's not my career. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who recently joined the Army. I think he was going in to be a combat mechanic, like fix tanks and jeeps and stuff. It didn't work out for him. He just said he hated it. And a lot of, what he really hated was everyone was so against veganism. Like, he could stay on a vegan diet in the military, but just everyone he worked with always ragged on him about the vegan diet, shoved meat in his face, and he said he just couldn't stand it, so...
Yeah, so oddly, this is one of the things talked about a lot in Buddhist philosophy, where they say in the Pali Canon, like, Pali Canon is written by a bunch of guys living in celibacy in close quarters, and some of them are ex-military too. Some of the early monks, they were former soldiers who joined, but there's actually a lot of philosophizing about how to live amongst friends, how to how to live with a bunch of guys. You may hate some of them. How to keep those relationships on point. But I mean, I think no doubt, like being in prison or like being a Buddhist monk, the main misery of being in the army is that you don't get to choose your friends. You don't get to choose the people you're spending time with, and that's such a fundamental aspect of human life.
Compared it to prison.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's a lot like prison.
Sure. Totally. I think there's no mystery about that.
À-bas-le-ciel.
Jail is for people who made mistakes and got caught, or people who put themselves in bad situations. There's some innocent people that's doing life in jail, and there's some rotten souls. Ain't nothing nice about being in jail or to glorify that. To be confined to a 5x8 room for 23 hours a day, to be out 23 and 1. What's glorified about that? What part of that makes you a gangster?